What do you think when you hear the word meta? Maybe you think of the tech giant, maybe you think of gamer lingo, or maybe you think of the joke. We all know which one.
Changed their name
Who?
to nuevo nombre.
Meta.
Meto mis huevos en tu boca.
Vete a la verga, pendejo!
Today, I want to talk about a different meta joke. A joke that most people don't know, but it's one of the oldest and most influential meta jokes in Western history. This joke changed many things, including religion, science, and the self-help million-dollar industry. It's called metaphysics. What is it? Well, it has physics in there, but what is meta? Meta is Greek for beyond, meaning that metaphysics is the study of what lies beyond regular physics. Despite its name, metaphysics isn't a recognized science. Instead, it's a very large branch of philosophy. It asks, why do things exist at all? Big boy existential questions like that. These questions can't be measured, so metaphysics tries to arrive at conclusions through thinking really hard about stuff. Already, we see a big problem here. In the past, philosophers have called metaphysics a science, but no science relies only on pure thinking. Imagine if you went to the doctor with a really bad headache. He spits some weird illness you never heard. How do you know that's what I have? You ask. The doctor says, I thought really hard about you, and that's how I came up with it. That's how metaphysics works in a nutshell. A very famous philosopher even wrote a guidebook on what metaphysics needs to do to become a trusted science, only to rewrite it later because no one understood what he was yapping about. But we'll get there. By now, you have already seen that I have a very low opinion of metaphysics. But why is it so awful? A lot of Western philosophy is built on the idea that metaphysics is fundamental to humanity, and it shouldn't be left behind even today, where we have trustworthy sciences like psychology, chemistry, and physics, of course. So, to understand why metaphysics is outdated, let's look at some famous metaphysical theories. Aristotle tried to explain how the world works. When reading Aristotle, you'll often think, this guy was very wrong, but he was onto something. For example, how can a seed become a tree? Aristotle thought that the world is moved by four forces, called the four causes. The material cause is what a thing is made of. The formal is its recognizable shape. The efficient is the thing that causes change. For example, water that makes the seed sprout. And the final is the goal of the seed, to become a tree. As a seed, it's in a state of potentiality. It has the potential to become a tree. When it does grow into one, it's in a state of actuality. I bet you didn't learn of Aristotle's theories in biology class, because they've been largely surpassed. So why is it that some philosophers spend their entire life on Aristotle, when there have already been 2,500 years worth of people that did just that? In the spirit of letting Aristotle's theories stay as history lessons, we're moving on. Descartes is another famous name who still lives on in pop culture when he said, I goon, therefore I am. But what did he mean by that? One day, Descartes woke up and thought, how do I know that things around me really exist? He could be in a fake reality built by an evil genius, a kind of matrix for the 17th century. After thinking really hard, he said that there's only one certain thing, that when he is thinking, he exists. He then stopped thinking for a second and exploded. Still, he couldn't just go to the streets and poke people because they're just NPCs in his matrix. He needed to make sure that the world really existed. He thought really hard again and said that the world is real because of God. God isn't a liar, he thought. So it would go against God if he's faking Descartes' entire world. Along the way, Descartes said another very famous thing. This guy is full of catchphrases. His argument for the existence of God. Descartes claims that finite and imperfect beings like humans can't create the idea of God, because a finite and imperfect being can't think of an infinite and perfect being out of nowhere. So the idea of God was put in all of us as a kind of divine signature. Why does Descartes say that an imperfect being can't imagine a perfect one? I don't know. It doesn't look like he knows either. Metaphysics likes to build its basis on supernatural or divine things. In doing so, Descartes completely flopped and tumbled down the stairs into a puddle of poo. You can't safely defend the existence of something that's based on faith with logic. Let's look at another one, Immanuel Kant. Though Kant was a bearer of a very big brain, he was an awful writer. Kant divided the world into two realities. The phenomenal is where we are. We can learn about the things that happen here because we have experiences of them. If you fuck around, you find out. That's an experience of the phenomenal realm. The noumenal realm is like Bloodborne. We can't know for certain what's going on there. There lives the idea of things as they really are, independently of our perception of them, as well as God and the true fabric of reality. According to Kant, we can't possibly know about this second world, so it's best to not even make a single judgment about it. Except that saying that realm exists is a pretty big judgment in of itself. Kant's metaphysics shoots itself in the foot by making these huge claims based on things we can't know, but that we're still supposed to believe in. He wanted to make metaphysics a science, but clearly he failed. Philosophy professors often say that philosophy is in this identity crisis. It seems less popular than ever as people move to science for answers. Philosophy, and by extension metaphysics, doesn't seem to realize that its identity crisis is self-afflicted. Why keep recycling old ideas that have already been discussed to death until the sun explodes? But why don't philosophers and professors just let the past go? It all comes down to ego. A big-ass ego at that. The philosopher who thinks they're all high and mighty just because they can read awfully written books is a very true stereotype. Metaphysical texts, like many Western philosophies, have the bad rap of being very hard to understand. The funny thing, however, is that the theories themselves are very simple and sometimes even obvious when put into readable words. Take a look at this. It looks very scary, right? Well, put into Fortnite terms, it's saying that when we find an art piece beautiful, it's not because it serves some kind of purpose. It just gives us pleasure. That feeling is personal, but it's still expressed by others. That is what we call taste. Not that scary now, huh? Oh, by the way, you didn't pause the video to read the whole thing, did you? Oh good. I thought I heard the pause button there. When put like this, it's very easy to understand, but philosophers' egos prevent them from explaining their crap in any other way. Before, I said that philosophers think philosophy is in an identity crisis. This is wrong, and another good example of their ego. It's Western philosophy that's having an identity crisis. Asian philosophy, for example, is chilling. In fact, it has never been better since it was introduced to the West through pop culture. Its simplicity and practicality give people a very useful hand in managing their life problems, a kind of help Western philosophy struggles to give. Of course, you have your stoicisms, but even those are very academicalized. To philosophers, metaphysics is this noble study of the fabric of reality, but that's a lie. Metaphysics was created as a solution to one thing: existential anxiety. There's nothing more terrifying to humans than the unknown. So they built systems to explain things and called it scientific studies to validate them and make their existential angst go away. This is my opinion on why metaphysics should be unplugged. It's a joke of a philosophy, especially because, even in the West, there's another philosophy that does a much better job at calming existential dread: existentialism. The sooner we put metaphysics out of its misery, the better.